nice. Thank you.
That was an amazing story. That's wild actually.
Did you really tell them like, oh, you violate
Yeah.
the asshole rule? They're like, wait, the asshole what? They're like,
Yeah.
nothing.
I didn't get. I've never been invited back to that place, and I never will.
Yeah, no, I think that's really powerful to just stick by your principles. So I'll tell the story of the first event I ever did. It was in my first co-working space office in Pittsburgh, and I had no idea what I was doing, but basically I wasn't really even planning ever to get into events at all. But the biggest thing was I was like, why aren't there more events going on for entrepreneurs like in Pittsburgh? So I was like, whatever, I'll just throw an event and bring some people to the office and whatever. And had no idea what I was doing. It was on the same night of because my office was right by University of Pittsburgh's campus, basically like on the campus. And there was like a huge show or like festival or something going on same night. Had no idea. So that was already like huge no-no. When there's a huge event going on, you should not be doing an event near the same area because there was no parking at all. And basically, I think there was like 7 or 8 people that showed up, and we basically just sat around the conference table and just like shared our stories. So yeah, it was bad, but well, the craziest thing was the 7 people that were there like really enjoyed it. The one was actually like our accounting partner who he's still like our sponsor to this day. And it's kind of crazy how even though it like wasn't successful, there's always like little pieces and little nuggets you can pull out of it that, you know, there's always like a silver lining or something that you can find from that experience that you can take. There's always something there that you can learn from it. I mean, earlier tonight, like our pizza comes in 45 minutes late and smashed. So I'm like, all right, well, guess let me jump on the phone with Domino's and let's see if we can get some more pizza. And hopefully the next time it works out. But you can't do anything in those situations.
That's hilarious.
All right. Eddie, how does it look?
Yeah, can you open it?
That's wild. But wow, that was actually pretty quick. So we have pizza now. Okay, great. So, but yeah, I mean, it works out, right? It usually things end up working out. It might not be an immediate thing, like you said. Same thing for me. I mean, it took me forever to like actually build things up, and I just did another event, went a little bit better. Did another event, went a little bit better. Then they introduced me. So I did an event at the Spaces in Pittsburgh. They were like, this was great. We should introduce you to our other locations. They introduced me to the New York office. And this was when Spaces had just one location in New York. Now they have like 10 or 12. It's crazy. So I went to their first location, and then I started doing events in New York every single month for the last 2 years now. And that's when I met my partner, Jimmy, and a lot of like great people in New York who just like blew everything up. So it's just weird how things work out and how, you know, like one bad experience, if you take it with some light, can actually turn out to be pretty magical.
You know, honestly, that's how I got my job.
Yeah, you were saying.
Yeah, I went to an event and there was just 7 people just sitting around a table and there was no interviewer. It was just a guy from like a real estate firm and he was just talking by himself. And I was like, oh, I guess this is really intimate. So I sat down. I'm like, well, this is really cool. But I was the annoying one, always asking questions. I was like, what about this? What about this? What about this? And he's like, okay, what, JoJo? And then I wanted to brag because I got my new Galaxy 10 Plus. I was like, oh, do you want to take a photo of like everyone? I was like, I have the best phone. I just got it. I went to the front. This is me purely being myself. I'm not going to get any benefit. This is just really funny for me. And this is really fun to kind of brag about your phone. Anyways, and I like taking photos. So I go up, we take a selfie. He sends that to Jimmy and Michael. And they're like, who's the girl who took the photo? I'm like, oh, just some random chick. So we all got connected. And they were like, do you want to start interviewing? Do you want to start hosting? I'm like, yeah, sure. That sounds like fun. Free pizza, free booze. I'm in. Let's go. And nice like places like this, cool. Why not? But it was all through like, I tell this to people all the time. Everything was by an accident. I like fell into it. You meet more great people at these type of events. You know, now I'm working with like amazing marketing agency, The Times, which we're working with Nike, Chance the Rapper, Yeezy, and it's crazy. But it all happens if you just keep talking to people. Like, seriously, just talk, So, yeah. Seriously. I was very shocked.
Whatever drug you took for that, let me know. So I found out about 35 years old that I was an introvert. And I didn't know this because I'm not shy. But my personality type is introvert, meaning I need to be alone to get energy and get creative. So you don't have to be an extrovert to be a networker. I love networking, one-on-one especially. If I get in a large group, I get a little bit I shut down a little bit. And I definitely, after this, I'm going to have to recharge. But I got a 2-hour drive home to the western suburbs, which is great. But know yourself and know your personality type. And don't think that if you're an introvert, you can't be an excellent networker. I mean, I'm all over LinkedIn. I've built up a network across the country doing that. And I go to conferences and speak sometimes, and sometimes I just work the floor. And so you have to network. You don't necessarily have to be an extrovert jumping up and taking pictures. I'd be terrible at that. And I'm not going to fake it. I'm just going to be myself. But I like interesting people, but I do it in a different way. But networking is critical. You got to expand your network. So.
Oh yeah, like seriously, it took a lot for me to get here. Going back to failure, I really just had to keep falling, making things awkward, and just keep talking to people, And actually, that's going to lead to my next question. Was there that one person that was like, awesome, I'm so excited that you're on my team. You think kind of like me. So you have that one person, whether that's girlfriend, wife, friends, that really pushed you to like the next level of your mindset. And you're like, oh, this is incredible. You have someone that's your team supporter.
Yeah. I think it's a tricky question for me because I often felt very alone when I was starting out, which kind of what led me to doing what I'm doing now and building this network for entrepreneurs. So it was often a lot of times just me in the office working super late, and my sleep schedule was messed up for years. I would work like 4 a.m. like for probably 2 years straight. Like that was. And then I would wake up late, and it was wild. It was really messed up. So it was often like me in my head. Like I had, and that's what I think a lot of entrepreneurs go through because they can't express themselves and they can't be around others to like just talk about the ideas. So when I finally met my partners now, who I met both through events, and I met both of our investors through events, and I met pretty much mostly all of the like people that are impacting my life now through either our events or other events that I've gone to. So I can't stress enough like how important networking is. And as long as you'll eventually, no matter what, even if you do feel alone right now, if you keep working towards something and keep focused on improving yourself, you're always going to attract the people that were meant to be in your life. It might take a while. It might take some time. You might have to lose some friends, even some family members in that path. But as long as you know that, like, internally in your gut, you're like, I'm being myself, I'm doing my thing, and I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing, people who are meant to be in your life and your supporters will always like find their way into your life. It's just like sometimes really hard because you might just be on your own for a little bit. And that's where technology in today's day and age is huge, right? A lot of my mentors now are people who I've never met, right? They're people who I watch their videos, I read their books, because I know the person that I want to be, I'm actually not like, I can't, go and meet face to face with billionaires every day. Like that's just not, I can't do that right now. So I do the next best thing and watch their videos and listen to their voices and read their books, and people who are innovating the world. Like that's who, that's where I'm trying to go. So you have to be very careful about who you're listening to, because even if you're in the same city as someone and you can meet with them in person, they might not be the best person for you to listen to. You need to figure out who you want to be, and then only look at those people at the top of the game, because a lot of people are listening to, frankly, a lot of people who aren't that successful. And it's pretty wild because now there's also a lot of people doing a lot of videos, a lot of courses. There's a lot of content out there, and it's really hard to discern what is the best stuff and what is not, because you might look at someone who has 1 million followers on Instagram and be like, oh, they're successful and I should just listen to them because look at that. But it's like they might only have like a couple $1,000,000 and they might have got it just from teaching people. So they've actually never even really built a real business before. So you have to be really careful about who you surround yourself with in your environment and your supporters, and making sure your supporters actually do want the best for you, because it's hard sometimes to see like intrinsically who actually wants you to be successful. It's really hard, and there's very few people who actually do want that most of the time, even though people say certain things, but it's tough. Yeah.
Someone who brought you down to South Florida as
Yeah.
third years. I'd love to hear how
Yeah.
he convinced you to do such a big life-changing thing.
Yeah, so that's my friend Dimitri. So he knows my basically first mentor, Romeo, and it was a weird relationship that we had too, because it was often like a lot of what I was just talking about, right? Like I thought this guy was like super successful, and just because of how he spoke and everything, and he had, you know, a lot of houses and condos in Florida and stuff, and I was like, oh wow. But going down there and starting these companies with him, I came to realize that he actually wasn't a person that I really even wanted to become, right? I thought that's what I wanted, and this is where trial and error comes into as well. But like, you really need to focus on like, you know, am I listening to someone who I want to be? And you know what I mean? Like, it's such a powerful thing. So after a year of doing that, I was like, I don't want this anymore. I want to do my own thing. I want to have total freedom. I want to work as much as I want. I want to focus on what I want to do. I want to work wherever, who I want with, and everything. So it's pretty powerful whenever you can take control of your own life. And it's hard and it sucks for a while, but it eventually works out.
Yeah.
So I'll let Bob answer that.
Yeah, of course, my wife, who's a huge supporter, she put up with stained carpets and 10-year-old 200,000-mile cars so that I could cash flow my business at the startup. She has a new car now, new carpet, trips around the world. So she's happy now. But she was super supportive, and I couldn't say without her. But there are two individuals that really helped. One was in the audience when I gave that first free speech. He was a BP executive. He's now since gone to another company, and we talk almost, you know, if not every week, every other week. Still a mentor. He put his faith in me and said, "Come to BP and speak." And I wasn't a professional speaker. He even wrote that in the email. You're not a professional speaker, but you know, he put his faith in me, and we've been close friends, and he's a mentor to me. The other one that was really important to me was my boss at the time when I left the company, who had so much faith in me. He sat down and wrote a check. He said, "You're going to start a company. You're going to need some funding." I said, "Jim, I really don't need it." He said, "Take it, put it in the bank. If you need it, draw on it like a line of credit. You're not going to get that at the beginning, and you have it, and I believe in you." And I said,
all right.
"Yeah."
I'll take it.
And you know all the stories, like you have to put a pro forma together and all. He didn't even ask.
Yeah.
He did not ask what I was going to do. He didn't want to see projections. He didn't want to see marketing. He believed in me, the power of that personal relationship. You know, that means so much, because the confidence that he gave in me, and he was a very successful businessman, sold his company. I'm doing that now. I'm trying to give back. So I'm on the board of advisories for a young company that just started 6 months ago. They're an engineering firm. It's 2 guys right now. He used to work for me, and now I've kind of encouraged him to branch out on his own. Because that's part of why I'm here today, actually. I wanted to come down and just kind of give back. Like, you know, you need encouragement if you're in that, you know, that part of the journey, to believe in yourself, believe that it's going to come. And I do believe in, I don't want to get weird, but the law of attraction is real. All right, if you start thinking about what you want to succeed in helping other people be successful, and again, it's not about personal needs, it's about helping other people. It worked. I mean, the amazing connections I have made because I've just tried to help other people. I couldn't have written this script if I wanted to. But you got to believe in it. You got to power through. Read Seth Godin, The Dip. If you haven't read The Dip, to get through that dip, and I share that with everybody because every project I start with every client, there is a dip, and they all want to quit. I'm like, we got to power through this, people. We're going to see the good stuff on the end. So anyway, those are 3 of many people that supported me.
But isn't that crazy? Like, you find that one person that believes in you, and you're like, whoa, really? Me? And that can really change your whole course in life. I always tell people, surround yourself with smarter people, you know? Just surround yourself with business, entrepreneurs. Just do it, you know? Be in the center of it, literally, you know? And just continuous. But I actually just wanted to kind of end off on last question, and then we'll do Q&A. But is there any podcasts or people or books that you could seriously recommend to all of us and me? I need to read more.
So books, I mean, I listen to like 20 or 30 podcasts a day. So if you got,
Joe Rogan?
no, but they are now. No. I just like to absorb that stuff. But books, very important. E-Myth. Has anybody read Mike Gerber's E-Myth from the 70s? If you haven't read E-Myth and you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to read that book. You have to understand what it really means to build systems and processes and do the working on the business, not just in the business. Okay, so that's the first one. If you're on the service side, there's a couple marketing. So Dan Kennedy in marketing, magnetic marketing, especially if you're not a born marketer like myself, I had to learn how to draw in people through content. And he's old school, but if you take Dan Kennedy and put him together with Gary V's jab, 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 right hook, Gary V's going off the rails right now, but he used to have a lot of good stuff.
He's
And
like
he cares what, he doesn't care what I think. But jab, 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 right hook, and crush it, those books, that stuff still works. I mean, a 52-year-old can be on LinkedIn and build a company like this through social media. Anybody can do it, but you got to understand how to do it. And I learned a lot of that from Gary Vee and from Dan Kennedy's book. And then if you're doing consulting work, there's a guy named Dr. Alan Weiss who wrote a book called he wrote about 25 books, but the main one is basically how to become a consultant, and it's a really powerful. I mean, he's telling you how to put together stationery. He's from 1970, so ignore that part. You don't need stationery, but his methodology is really practical, and everybody dreams the dream, but there actually are nuts and bolts you have to put together to make the dollars pile up at the bottom. So those are kind of my go-tos. But I read probably 2 books a month. Anything. I don't read fiction anymore since I left English class. I should probably, maybe in my retirement. I read history of, I love reading historical biographies of business people that have built businesses. Probably Rockefeller, oil industry. If you haven't read The Prize, if you have any interest in the energy industry, I know everybody's anti-oil these days. I'm all for nuclear power if we can get there, but anyway, save that for another time.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I used to hate reading, and I think school did that to me. But I think the biggest thing was growing up, I never got any books that I was actually interested in or I got to choose. So it just made me not like it. But now I really enjoy it, and I force myself to read minimum of 2 pages every night before I go to bed. It's kind of just quick routine, but it's helped a lot. And then I love podcasts too. So Tim Ferriss podcast is great. Jason Calacanis's podcast, This Week in Startups. If you guys are in tech and startups and trying to build a technology company or a company that is considered high growth startup, gonna raise a lot of money, hire a lot of people, grow really, really fast. He's one of the top angel investors. He's invested himself at the angel round in 8 unicorns. He was one of the first investors in Uber, and Calm, Thumbtack, a lot. So his podcast is great. And what else? Books. The Magic of Thinking Big is huge. I think that's one thing that I'd take away from my first mentor, Romeo. Actually, that I really truly believe that he like instilled in me was I used to think so small. I was like, when you break it down, most people never think that big. They're like, oh, yeah, my dream life is getting a 6-figure job and a house and maybe a boat and then retire and maybe a vacation home or whatever. And then even entrepreneurs, like a lot of people really don't think that big. It's kind of crazy. Our brains and our imagination is for the taking. You can imagine and think of anything that you want. And if you can visualize it and believe that you can do it, right, and have a plan to get there, and it's rational, right? That's the other thing too. But like you can do it. It's going to take some time, but like I encourage everyone to really, shoot for the stars. And you set limitations in your own mind a lot of times. So like that book, Law of Success by Napoleon Hill, all Napoleon Hill stuff is amazing. A more like businessy book would be like 0 to 1 with Peter Thiel, which is kind of like a typical or like not like cliche like startup book, but it's really powerful because he talks about how you should want to get a monopoly. You should focus on how you can be a monopoly and how you can set yourself apart from all the competition and set up a scalable business that you don't have to constantly work in, right? You can, just like what you're doing mostly, it's probably, managing people and making sure things are going along, but, it's scalable. If you get more clients, you can get more people, and you don't have to, open up brick and mortar locations and a lot of other stuff. That's why software and technology is amazing. But yeah, I think that kind of covers that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I got a lot of reading to do.
Do we let's open up to some questions. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, we're gonna